I'm making a gauge panel for the 79 Camaro, and what I've got here is a piece of aluminum. It's about 40 thousandths, I think, something like that. I already cut the outside shape of it to fit into the gauge, the old gauge panel, and I already shaved the back of the panel off because it used to be dished for the old gauges. So I already took the Dremel there and cut all that stuff off, so it's nice and flush. I might have to open these up a little bit because the smaller gauges are 2 1/16, and this hole is like pretty much 2 1/16. So I'm gonna have to open them a little bit, but we'll see when I actually go to put the gauges in. As you can see here, I already drilled holes out for the signals because I'm gonna try to still use those. As you can see, they are still there. And then here, I'm actually drilling out the holes for the gauges. Now, the big holes were 3 3/8. You can see I put the plastic piece on there and traced it so I knew how big to go. And these ones are 2 1/16, like I said before, but the only hole saw I could get was a 2-inch and a 3-inch. So I'm gonna have to take the Dremel or die grinder, and I'm gonna have to open these up out to this. The 2 1/16 will be easy because then we're gonna take a little bit off and those will fit. But these ones here, I'm gonna have to go, all the way out to where I drew that line. And then after that, it's pretty simple. But you've got to make sure that you hook this down on something. If you try to drill these out with the hole saw without attaching this aluminum to something, it's going to grab and it's going to spin the whole plate, and you're going to get hurt. But just a quick how-to on, making your own gauge panel here. This is it's pretty thin aluminum. It's got some girth to it, but I mean, rigid enough that you can't just fold it up with your hands. It all depends on what you're trying to do, I guess, but that's what that looks like for now. Okay, so at this point I've actually opened the holes up with my die grinder to fit the gauges in. You could do it with a rat tail file if you wanted to. It'd take you a little bit longer, but you could also not be impatient like me, and you could order the right size hole saws. They do make them in 2 1/16 and 3 3/8. You just got to order them online. The local Home Depot or Lowe's, or in my case, an Ace Hardware, they won't have that size. But you can order them online, have them shipped to your house. You just got to be more patient than me. I opened them up with a die grinder, another option, but if you don't have a die grinder, there's always other ways to do it. So now we're gonna, I already clear coated it, as you can see, to keep it from corroding. You gotta be careful not to scratch it. As you can see there, I got a nice little scratch. Hopefully the bezel on the outside will cover most of that up. But if you do get some light, fine scratches, you can hit it with a palm sander and some fine sandpaper, smooth it out and get some uniform, color to it so it doesn't have that weird scratched look to it. Or if you like the scratched look, you could always sandpaper it in one direction to give it that look, with the grain. But let's get these gauges in and see what we got. Voila! Gauge cluster. Look at that. That's fancy. As you can see, I went with the Marshall gauges. The electric C26 Gauge Cluster set off of eBay. They look really good. The shipping was crazy fast considering it came from Anaheim, California and got to New York in like 3 days, which is wild. Hopefully they work as good as they look. They look fantastic. They come in a bunch of different color options and bezel options for right around $350 for the set. Yeah, $350 for the set. That's crazy. You'll pay that just for a speedometer from some of the other places. When it comes to LS swaps, you have some options. If you want to stay with your stock gauge cluster, you can get what's called a Gen X box, which converts the electric signal to mechanical. They're about $325, I believe, but you will also need a tach module for setting the tachometer. I'm not exactly sure what that costs, but it doesn't really matter what it costs because for $350 you can order a set of these gauges. If they work good. I mean, we'll have to do another video after I get them in and get them all hooked up and we can see what they do. But another option for stock gauges is there are some companies out there that you can send your stock cluster out and they will convert it to electric. Now on this car, I mean, it's a 79 Camaro. it's not really old enough for me to care about it being a stock gauge cluster. But I mean, if you had something older, you know, 50s, 60s, early 70s muscle car or something, I could totally see wanting to use your stock gauges. And in that case, I would probably send them out and have them converted to electric. I read a lot of stuff on the forums about the Gen X box, and some of the guys seem to like it, some of the guys don't seem to like it. But on this car, we're going with the Marshalls. And so far, I'm happy with them, man. They look fantastic. So now we got to wire them up and see what they'll do. They even come with a oil pressure sensor and a temp sensor, so that makes it pretty easy. All right. As usual, keep it creative. Happy building.